consultative sales are what upmarket like. They don't like the sales pitchy stuff. They want to have a conversation. They want some genuineness. And the minute they don't sense that, they're out the door. And everything about downmarket sales scripts are not genuine. They are scripty. And the downmarket doesn't pick up on it because they're not used to it. They do eventually, right? They have one bad experience, two bad experience, but the third one, the minute you get into that script, they're like, been there, done that. I'm out.
But what you make me think of is having a sophisticated script writing process. Now I'm going to start by saying this. We don't even use the word script in our business. It's called a talk track. And I've been using the word talk tracks for a decade. Because what a talk track is it's meant to give you some parameters and guardrails for the conversation to go the right direction. But scripting implies word for word types of things. It's very rigid. It's very clunky. It's disingenuous. It's not fluid. And so we create talk tracks, which say these are the main things we want to accomplish, but it has to be organic and it has to flow. And so when it comes to kind of sophisticated scripting, because like you said, the market maturity that we have and the people that have gone through so many of these bad coaching calls, we have to change. Well, no pun intended. We got to flip the script, right? And so one of the things that we do when we're having a sales call, and I have a very specific way that I've built our talk tracks and our templates, and we emulate them differently and then obviously personalize them for each offer. But in the discovery process, right, I say there's two things, right? Two main things to make it a really effective discovery. Oh, even the program likes that. I got balloons going. So
what the hell was that?
I don't know.
That's a MacBook update right there.
That is letting you guys know to get excited for what I'm about to say.
That is God showing up and saying, I bless this moment.
Was that compliant? I don't know. It feels a little hypey to me.
Right, exactly. So what we want to do is we want to expand the gap and we want to amplify desire. But let me break that down and what it actually means, because when you're expanding the gap, you're building a true understanding of that person's problems and what they're actually trying to solve. And a lot of the times these really fabricated, disingenuous scripts of, so what's your goal and why is that important to you? Why though? These disingenuous scripts, they don't really actually have an intention of truly caring. My business partner, our chief sales officer, he always says, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And so you have to actually approach it in a way where you dig deep enough to find that. But number two, which is more important because it's more often missed, is you have to amplify desire. Think about this. Every minute you talk to someone, you're either getting further away or closer to making a sale, right? You're either talking them out of it or you're going the right direction and they're building more interest. And so I used to do an example, and I actually did it again recently. And yes, believe it or not, still to this day, every once in a while, if I need to make an example, I'll take a sales call myself and record it so my team knows. I never want to lose the sight of being in the trenches. I never want to be the coach that doesn't know how to swing a bat, right? So I'll jump in. And one of the examples that I did, I took him through an entire talk track. And it is cool. And I don't say this out of ego. I say this out of pride because I've worked so hard and so long to perfect my craft. But when I show it to a sales team, they're like, holy crap. They're inspired by it. I said, hey, let me ask you something. If I stopped the call before I even transitioned into the quote unquote pitch, just after the discovery, and I asked them, hey, do you want to do this? What do you think would happen? We were on a Zoom call, right? Team training, and a bunch of people are like, they would have bought. They were ready to go. They were this. And I was like, well, isn't that interesting, though? I didn't even make the pitch. So how is it possible that they're actually seemingly ready to buy? They're like, dude, this is exactly what I was looking for. And I haven't even went to the pitch. Now, I'll tell you this. It's not because I'm pitching during my discovery. That's a horrible practice, too. You'll create objections, and they're not ready to hear it. It's because I am genuinely trying to find out what they're looking for. And then I am amplifying desire by demonstrating expertise and authority. And that's what we have to bring back into sales. When we're on sales calls, their confidence needs to start increasing because they're like, holy crap, like this guy has the knowledge that I need. Yeah. They know just simply by the conversations that you have, right? Simply in the questions that you ask should reveal how much you know. And so the way that we do that is by having that dialogue in the talk track, because I'll tell you this, one of the things that we're very, very big on training against is if you're in discovery process and you're treating it like an interrogation and you're saying, so what are your goals? Gotcha. And I know you hate that question, Anik. I'm making a bad example. This is not the right example, right? You say, what are your goals? Okay, got it. And why is that important to you? Okay, awesome. And what have you tried up to this point? Got it. And they just got it in between every question. It's like, that's not how conversations happen. So you need to take that information, right? You need to expand upon it. And in between those questions is where you're adding the substance, where they're like, man, this person really gets it. They understand. And by the time you get to the pitch, it's almost like you should already know that they want it because you had the right conversation. Right?
Yeah. It's 100%. So there's a joke in our company. I suck at phone sales, right? Like the joke, when we had a sales team, it started this way. One day they're trying to close a deal. I said, all right, I'm the person's like kind of 50-50. I was like, I'll talk to him. And they're like, oh, you will? Really? That'll get the sale. I'm like, yeah, I'll talk to him. I talked to him, didn't buy. Did it like 2 or 3 more times. And the sales team starts to say, hey, that's like where sales go to die. Let's not send deals to Anik. And it was, I'll tell you why. We were talking to downmarket audience and I was talking in an upmarket script. It just, the track was all off. That's how I'm used to talking. Now you put me in a biz dev deal, good luck getting out. I'm going to close that.
That is such an important thing you just said, because now you're using the difference in the differentiator as down market and up market, which I think is interesting and makes sense. But it can also be defined as like B2B, B2C, but not even just B2B. It's almost, so we call it opportunity seekers and active practitioners. And the reason why we don't just stick with B2B and B2C is because they can be B2B, but looking for a new opportunity. And so it's still they have way less knowledge. They're not as far up the gradient as is the way that we describe it. And so we call it opportunity seekers and active practitioners. Now it's so important because what you just said. Now I can come in with the most sophisticated talk track. If I'm selling a business on a big deal and there's a negotiation involved, I know that just leaving the phone with me, they're like, I can't even afford to not work with that person because I showed them. I didn't tell them. I was saying things that you can't fake. It was so clear how much knowledge I had and how well I understood their problem. That's the type of talk track that requires. But I'll tell you this, and we have made this mistake. Guys, that's really important. Like I always like to bring the truth on these podcasts and this content where it's like, the only thing that makes me as good as I am at what we do is because we've made all the mistakes. Like, it's not like we're like, we've been perfect since the beginning. Like, here's a big mistake that I made. I would see why those conversations were so effective in this type of sales environment. We try to roll it out across the board. Well, the down market, as you're describing it, Anik, the opportunity seekers that are just newer, less sophisticated, not in a derogatory way, but like you said, just on the subject matter, it was creating massive objections. It was stressing them out. The same exact talk track that would make the top people buy, these people are like, holy crap, I never thought of that. It seems like there's a lot to it. It's not a one size fits all is the main point there.
1,000%. So that's what I would do. So I'll finish this train of thought because I think there's people that are watching that are going to have a big epiphany from it. So that's exactly what I would do. I'd get on with the opportunity. I like opportunity seekers. It's a better word. And I would go into straight up consultative mode. This is what we're going to do. We're going to do da. And in my head, I'm like, dude, wow, good job, Anik. Like, I just blew my own mind. You should be, you should be so grateful. Like, this is awesome. And the person would be like, because all they heard was like, it sounds hard. I can't do that. Whereas a practitioner would be like, damn, thank you, Anik. Like, holy, that was fire. You're like, I'm in.